Okay, so now we're gonna make our chimichurri to go onto our beautiful butter herb basted steak. So now I'm just gonna take, I have some parsley and I have some cilantro mixed together. So I'm just gonna put a bunch of that into this ninja. I cut off as many of the stems as possible. I washed them thoroughly. Now I have 2 cloves of garlic right here, and I'm going to just dump those in. Now I'm going to add some olive oil. Well, I've added about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. Now I'm going to put in about 3/4 of a teaspoon of red wine vinegar. Red wine vinegar is very strong, especially depending on the kind you buy. I have some Regina red wine vinegar and it is pretty strong. Now I'm just going to grind a little black pepper in it. And I have a little sea salt to grind in it. Now I'm just going to whip it up in my ninja. It's nothing like using fresh herbs when you're cooking. Here's my ninja. And we'll just So now I'm going to either garnish the plate with it like an aioli, or you could just stream it over your pieces of steak. I'm just going to sit it in the refrigerator until my steak is ready. So now I'm going to make my garlic butter, my garlic herb butter for my steak. So I've softened some butter, some salted butter. And I took just a 1/2 stick of butter out. And I'm just going to mash it. And then I'm going to add herbs to it. Well, not fresh herbs, but. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little dry thyme. I have some ground white pepper. So I'm also going to put a little garlic powder in it. And I have a little smoked paprika that I'm just going to put in there. I'm just going to put a tad bit of the smoked paprika. See, just enough to cover the top. Then we're just going to mix that together. And the salted butter that I used. Now I got this. Now this is just something I don't usually put on my steak, but we're going to try it in the herb butter. It's roasted garlic and herb seasoning. I'm just going to put a few little shakes in there. And this butter is going to just melt down on top of the steaks. I'm just going to put 1/2 on one steak and 1/2 on the other because I have 2 steaks. Now we're having this with a side of mashed potatoes and some corn on the cob. It's going to be delicious. Now I'm going to just let this sit here and kind of marinate for a minute while I make my sides. Fresh corn. What I'm going to do now is I have 2 nice pieces of sirloin steak, see? There's one. And what you do is you take some kosher salt. You can use any brand. And you sprinkle some kosher salt on both sides. Now, don't be afraid to use the salt, because if you ever notice when you watch Chopped, they complain about people not putting enough salt on their meat. Of course, if you have a problem with eating salt, or you have to have a low sodium diet, you could just use herbs. You could use herbs actually like this if you don't use salt. And then they also have salt substitutes. Here's the other one. This one is nice and pretty thick. Actually, this is a sirloin steak, and for this recipe, I would actually recommend using strip steaks, or maybe even a T-bone steak or a porterhouse steak. However, I don't have strip steaks right now, so I'm gonna just use my sirloin. And I know some of you are going, oh, look at all that salt. Well, actually, the salt is I'm gonna let this sit for 20 minutes. And the salt is going to go down into the meat and flavor the meat. You can even rub it a little bit so that it could go into the meat faster. So I'm just going to cover this up and let it sit for 20 minutes. If you are able to put it in the refrigerator for 2 hours, do that as well. Oh, what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to put my Worcestershire sauce on before I let it sit, so it can marinate in that. So I have my Worcestershire sauce, and now I'm just going to put that on the steak with the salt. And I'm going to let that sit for 20 minutes. Okay, so now I've taken a pan and I heated it up pretty good. And I'm going to put some olive oil in it. Olive oil. I've let the steak sit for 20 minutes. But like I said, if you have time, put the salt on it and put it in the refrigerator for 2 hours. But I don't have time right now. Everybody's hungry. See how the salt has melted down into the steak? You can't even see it anymore. Now I'm going to just sit that in the pan. And we're going to let one side cook for about 1.5 minutes. We're going to get it just hot enough so that when I turn it over, I can put that herb butter on top of it and it'll start melting. I have the fire on medium high. So the idea that you cannot turn your steak over more than once turns out to be a myth. I got that tip from Alton Brown. Okay, so we're going to flip it over here. And I'm going to take that herb butter and I'm going to put it on top of the steak. I'll just spread it on to help it start melting. Oh, look at that. Look how it's melting down onto that delicious steak. If you're a steak lover, comment below and tell me you're a steak lover and tell me the kind of steak you like the best. Look at that. So now I'm going to just let the steak cook for a few minutes, and then I'm going to just turn it back over and I'm going to start basting it. Now as you see the juice start coming out of the steak, you can turn it back over. Some people think that's blood, but it's not actually blood. It has to do with liquid coming out of the muscle. So now I'm going to turn it back over. And I'm going to start basting it. And when you baste the steak, it comes out much more juicy. I'm going to have to turn the fire up a little more. I'm going to turn it back over one more time. I don't know why I don't have a nice brown serum. I guess it's the kind of pan I'm using. I'm going to let it cook for about another 3 minutes because I like my steak medium rare. I'm probably going to have to leave some of it in for the people who like it well done. And there you go. A nice summer steak dinner. A nice herb butter basted with mashed potatoes, a little bit of that steak gravy, and some corn on the cob. Yum, yum, yum. Remember, there's 2 ways you can make a chimichurri. If you like it coarsely chopped, you can make it in a food processor, or you can make it into a sauce like I made it. Either way, whichever texture you like, that's what I call delicious. I want to thank you all for watching, and make sure you come back and check out some more recipes on my channel. And don't forget to thumbs this up and give me a subscribe. I love y'all. Thank you for watching. Bye.